Hello everyone and welcome to another YouTube video. This is the second episode in the Advanced Tech series. Today we will be looking at movement mechanics in gaming and specifically in Valorant and first-person shooters. Now, it should be noted that movement is very key to this game, as if you couldn't move from anywhere, you'd just be a standing turret, and I don't know about you guys, but that does not sound like good game design to me. So the way we're going to do this is we are going to be on Ascent today, and I'm going to say that I will stay on Ascent and show you what key movements you can do on Ascent, but I will not be switching to other maps because I think once you learn the fundamentals of a specific skill, that fundamental can be applied to every other map. Starting on attacker's side, B side. Now, why would I be talking about movement, and what about movement could be so complicated? Arguably, you could say that movement is very straightforward. You've got the WASD keys, and you just use those, and it's whatever, right? Well, you're not entirely wrong with that. See, movement and positioning in Valorant is one of the most key things that you can do, because if you have appropriate movement and positioning, it will be much harder for the enemy team to not only find your location, but also to shoot you as you're entering sight. For example, a lot of the time you'll see people just walking up to walls and just running in a straight line. This is a very easy way to die from someone holding this angle right here as an attacker, as they will be holding your close angle. A more effective way to enter a site has more to do with how you approach it. You don't want to let yourself be seen as you near a wall, but once you're ready to swing, you want to be as far away from the wall as you can, and you want to ensure that when you do swing, you do it at high speeds. You do not shift walk, because that just makes you an easy target. You could do it close to the wall as well, but then you might want a wide swing instead of close swing, unless you're jiggle peeking and you want to just jiggle and shoot. So that's one of the key things we'll be looking at. First of all is jiggle peeking and angle. If you are playing attackers on Ascent, quite often the most common angles that will be held will be here and here. This is because these will usually allow for you to get free kills most of the time, as whenever people are pushing, you could be playing Reyna or Chamber, you take one pot shot to get a kill and then teleport or dismiss out of the area. That way you just get a lot of value for your team without ever putting yourself in any real danger, so to speak. This is why entering a site using precise movement is so important. If 3 rounds in a row you know there's someone here waiting, you might want to use an ability like a Sage Wall to push without them knowing, or to randomize your movement to make it harder to predict. If at the start of every round with the 140-second mark hits, let me just get rid of this wall real quick. Once you get down to specifics, if it gets to the 140 mark and by the 135 mark you always peek, the enemy can actually learn your patterns when it comes to peeking and predict and pre-fire you as you take the angle. Obviously that makes you a very easy target, so one of the things you want to do is to play around with your timing. Don't always go in just because you can, always be random. That's the key message of this video. You have to randomize how you approach things to make yourself a more difficult target to hit. On the opposite side of the spectrum, whenever you're defending B, you've got to be aware of a few things with regards to your movement. Where the enemy could be compared to your position on site, and what are the most common and effective angles to hold. If you're playing a sentinel, it doesn't pay you any dividends to hold here, because this just does not give you any pressure on the site, as well as there's no point in you holding here. Your whole point as a sentinel is to slow their advances onto the site to keep the spike down. So if you are playing D's defense rule for your team, the best place you could be is actually on site, or just outside of sight. Specifically, if you're playing Sage, the best thing you can do is have your Omen smoke your B main, should the enemy be pushing you B, and then you want to use your slow orb and then position yourself on site. This is a key movement. You need to make sure you're not just a sitting duck there, allowing people to come onto site for free. Unless you want to play for retake, but that's something completely different. That's more to do with tactics. If it's a pistol round, or if it's a round where you have the man advantage, or if it's a round that you maybe eco, it's always key to keep people off site. I have lost way too many rounds just because people will refuse to play on the site, because their idea is, why would I come to site when I can just sit either here or here in mid and bait a teammate that's already on site? There's no reason for me to defend. Well, a lot of people seem to forget that the main aim of Valorant isn't to kill the enemy team as much as it is to keep them from getting side and planting. Like, let me give you a hypothetic, right? You are playing a Sentinel on this map. You're right here at the start of the round, you wall. What is the next step you want to do? You want to get off site, right? You want to be safe, you want to make sure you won't die, you just want to run away and wait for your team to come. But what if it's just more effective instead for you to switch around and come to lane? And then the second your wall gets broken, you slow and you position deeper onto site, but still hold an angle to get information. If the enemies are on site now and you're getting pushed, instead of pushing into them or being here, which will not give you any ability to slow them down, you go further back into sight, slow orb whatever area is necessary, and either hide backside waiting for a jiggle peek, which is once again part of movement, or you play a rat spot on site, something they won't expect. If you know they're all pushing from lane, it's very good to just play under bricks. That way, if anyone jumps onto site, you might get 1 or 2 free kills. One person jumps over, you kill them, and then you trade the person who's up top. This is what movement is all about. It's about making that split-second decision to position yourself in an area where you benefit as a player rather than an area that the enemy will benefit from. So for the love of God, please play on site. Stop running away. It's so hard to play retake in the environment of ranked. Just keep them off the site. Moving on to A site. A really common thing that happens, that's a massive giveaway that anyone is going on to A site, is this specific square right here. When moving through here, if you're late to meeting up with your team outside of A main for whatever reason, make sure you shift walk. If you run across here, you will tell the team exactly where you are, and they'll know that there's some people pushing A. This is what I mean. Movement is also key because of how much information you give away to your team, but the same rules apply. Once you're pushing A main, you don't want to shift walk across and peek while shift walking. You always want to make yourself a difficult target. If you want to be harder to kill, instead of peeking close to the angle where the person has a less distance to travel to see you, why not peek further away? Why not swing faster? Make sure you're always moving at the fastest speed you can to make yourself a more difficult target to hit. I know that sounds counterintuitive because you have less accuracy the faster you move. But that's where the peaking angle of it comes in, no pun intended. What you want to do is you want to make yourself difficult to hit so that the opponent doesn't get a free kill on you, and once they are disorientated due to your speed, then you trade off the opponent killing them in return. Another thing that I think should be done less is, if you know that there is someone that is holding here with an operator, warn your teammates, or if you are that teammate, don't peek mid. No one wants to watch you die to the operator holding any of these positions. Plus, with an AR, because they are so unreliable due to the fact that they don't have a completely accurate first shot, that means that no matter what gun you use, with the exception of maybe countering with an operator, a marshal, or a guardian, you will not be able to kill the operator before it kills you. Not gonna lie, this is more turning into a session just ranting about the dumb shit I see people do in rank, but I digress. Once again, if you do want to peek mid because you know there isn't an operator there, it's always better to either jiggle peek, making sure that you make yourself as hard to hit as possible, or wide swing into this box so the enemy has less of a chance at killing you. One of the more popular movement techniques that were introduced into the game recently were by someone called Poppin. Just a nice little shout out there. He created a pop-in peek where you just keep moving, wait for the enemy to miss their first couple shots, and then kill them because they are standing still trying to kill you, whilst you are a very difficult to hit target. You want to incorporate that as well into your strafing. Strafing is key to Valorant because it tries to create a balance between you being hard to hit, but you also making the enemy an easier target by forcing them to stand still. Now, the sweet spot between strafing and not strafing comes down to practice. There's no way to break it down easier, you just sort of have to practice the movement. The best way to do that is to go into a practice range, don't shoot anything, and just see how long it takes for the crosshair to reach the outer edge. The sweet spot of strafing is making sure that the only time you shoot is when you see those little dots come to the center, because then your shots will be accurate. start slow and then pick up the space so that you always hit shots in the center. I know strafing training is really obnoxious to do. I hate doing it. I haven't done any. I've just sort of picked it up as I've played the game, but it is very important if you want to maximize your success as a player. Counter strafing is the act of always moving in the opposite direction your enemy is aiming. Or one thing you could do is, if you know someone is shifting side to side, you just need to wait for them to stand still. I know that's easier said than done and it seems very logical, but so long as you're moving if your enemy is moving, or standing still when your enemy is standing still, you increase your chances at succeeding in the trade. You don't want to be you want to be moving whilst the enemy is shooting at you, but you don't want to be standing still whilst they're moving and shooting, because that just makes you an easier target. Another thing you can do is, instead of doing a side-to-side predictable strafe, try increase the distance in one direction or another and then switch it up again. Once again, you want to use your movement to become unpredictable. You don't want to just be a sort of a duck at a carnival game. Moving in one direction will just teach the enemy where to predict your aim. Moving in the same direction at the same rate, the enemy will eventually break down your pattern and be killing you more and more. And the entire time you'll be wondering why they're killing you, because you're doing effective swinging. I've done the same thing. I've wondered the same thing in ranked. It's all to do with movement predictability. So, key thing is, if you are strafing against someone, make sure to add 1 or 2 more steps, and don't just strafe side to side at a specific distance. Now, if you are defending a site, a lot of the times you will see people positioning either this angle or this angle, because they've either come from tree and broken the glass here, or because they've rotated from spawn. But no one will ever be holding site. If you think about it rationally, if you are here, there's nowhere for you to go. If you've got 3 enemies pushing site like that, 1 from tree and 2 from main, if you swing, whether you get 1 or not, you will be more likely to die either way, because the other 2 players will trade you. So why on earth would you play up here with the rest of your team when you could once again be a rat and play on site? Holding site is very good, because if you guys haven't noticed, and I'm telling you some people haven't noticed by the way they play, there are these wonderful things in the way everywhere that allow you to hold the site better as a player. You want to switch up where you stand every round, but the enemy team has a 1 in 3 chance of guessing your position. Do you know what the hardest site is to entry? The one where there's someone holding a crossfire there, a crossfire there, and someone is just messing with the enemy team on green box. Why? Because so long as they're using bricks to hide and then peeking either side of bricks or box, they become a difficult target to hit. Once the enemy team is angry and they want to flood the site, all they need to do is peek and have the 2 people either side of them trade the enemy as they push site. This is effective positioning. This is what you need to tell your teammates to do. More than enough times I've seen either a Reyna or a Sentinel play up here, hold the entire site, the rest of the team, 2-3 players come from here, all 3 of them peek at the same time, and we just get gunned down because you have no map pressure on the site itself. Once again, if you're playing retake, that's a completely different scenario, but for the love of God, more people need to play on the site. The aim of the game is to keep people from planting, it's not to kill the enemy team. That's just a byproduct of the game design. Obviously, everyone wants to make the clip on the YouTube compilation, I do too, but you'll win way more games if you position correctly. If you are an aggressive character like Phoenix, Reyna, and Jett, once again, make yourself a difficult target. If you hear the enemy team is pushing, either kill and dash away, or instead of doing that, just get the information and walk away. It is much better for you to learn where they are and then play crossfire, like I said, by positioning yourself correctly. Or just like if you hear 1 or 2 people, getting the highest value. Movement is all about this decisive positioning, as well as maximizing the value you can get out of your movement. So if I know there's people here, I'm not going to call main and then go all the way to heaven, because that gives them about 2.5 years to just swing me and kill me as I'm running away. But if I know that there's no one here and I need to rotate, it would be more effective to just go through tree. Movement is all about making an effective decision at the right time. Is there anything else to talk about? I don't think so. I guess just play mid less. Like, obviously having mid control is very important, but once again, it's all about gaining that information. Like, too many times I've seen someone think they could kill 2 or 3 people peeking here. Like, I'm sorry to break it to you, man, but you're not noted. Or tens. Those guys could probably pull it off, but even they make mistakes. Like, you just gotta take the L, give up mid priority sometimes. Just don't be cocky. That's the lesson of today. Just don't be a cocky player. If you do want to play mid or can play mid, then that's very good. But always position yourself to have an advantage. If you know that the enemy team is here at 1 minute 30 every single game, don't peek into 3 people at 1 minute 30. Wait until 1 minute 20 and then peek out. Always randomize your movement to make yourself a difficult target. I don't think I have anything to add, to be honest. Ah, there we go. I just remembered this because it happened to me the other day. If you are attacking and you choose to take mid, if you get stuck mid, the best thing you can do, instead of going corner, 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 and slowly getting gunned down as you're getting pushed from all sides, is just fall back. Fall back to main, either A main or B main, and decide what your plan is going to be from there. You might think that's ludicrous because you're just moving back and you've achieved nothing, but let me show you something, right? Imagine you are holding mid, and you and your entire team are holding these angles right here, right? And you're right here. Well, what's going to happen here? You're going to have one person from there and there push at the same time. The person that pushes from there is either going to kill you, or if you're better than them, you will kill them, but then you'll get traded out by the guy from here. If you need to swing out to try to strafe to make yourself harder to hit, well, you've just swung into the person holding this angle. This teammate isn't going to peek because they know that they're just going to get swung by this guy, or they're going to get swung by this guy, so they're not going to help you. This teammate here will probably not give you the information that someone's pushing out a main, or they won't hear it, and this person will die trying to fight this guy. Being in mid and not being able to move is terrible positioning. Don't do it. Tell your teammates to back off. Best case scenario, you catch a loser who decided to push out either A lobby or B main, and then you just take that site. This is why positioning and movement is so key in this game. You gotta make sure you position yourself correctly to get the most out of your life, because even if you don't get the kill, it's still worth you living long enough to get that information. So, the TLDR, if you are a sentinel or you want to make sure you are more likely to win the round, play on site and ask people to play on site with you. If you are attacking, don't always just peek at the same time with the same angle using the same approach. And if you are defending the other side, the same applies. If you have to rotate from A to B, going through heaven is just a waste of time. If you get lucky, you might go through mid and hear that someone's actually playing catwalk. Well, there you go. You've just gotten more information for your team that they didn't have before. Always think about what your next step is going to be, and think about what the enemy team is trying to do. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. I have been VenToBlack3, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.